Let's keep this party going. Let's talk about social media. So as mentioned at our agency, that's kind of my area of focus, is the social and content side of things. So I want to talk about components of a successful social media campaign. And we've run a lot of these. Oftentimes they're part of a larger campaign. It's a social media component of a larger campaign. But kind of want to touch on some of the things that we've learned over the course of time when creating these campaigns. So before I get started, something I like to start a lot of my presentations with is just simply talking about good products and services. And I think some people look at social media as a bit of a silver bullet. Oh, if we've got a good Facebook page, it'll just kind of go over and say everything else is great because we've got a good Facebook page. It doesn't solve it doesn't solve the fact that you have a bad product or service. So there's no marketing on earth that's going to help you if your product or service isn't any good. The thing social media will do is it'll let people have a separate channel and a voice to which they can talk about their displeasure with your bad product or service. So just something to keep in mind before we start any idea of campaigns, or let's start a Facebook page because all the kids are doing it, or whatever the case may be. Let's reevaluate and make sure that product or service we're offering is really, really good before we start working on marketing it. So a couple different components when we talk about creating a social media campaign. The first one being why. Every campaign needs a goal or goals. It's great that you have an idea and, hey, we should do this, let's go ahead and do this, but we still need the why. Why are we wasting resources, whether it be time or money, if we don't have any sort of goals in mind? Oftentimes, it's the idea of integrating social media into a larger campaign. I know my first job in the digital world, we were on the digital team, and then we had the offline team as well. And it was oftentimes, it was like the digital guys came in at the very end, and we just added a little bit to the overall campaign that was already built. And we soon started to realize that we kind of have that wrong. Social and content and digital need to be right there when we're building the campaign to begin with, because it's going to be a really vital part of whatever we decide to do. So digital and social isn't something that we just sprinkle over the top at the very end. You need to root it into whatever you're doing when it comes to building a campaign in the first place. Another thing that I see all the time, a bit of a misconception, is campaign doesn't mean contest. It doesn't mean, yeah, we've got a social media campaign going and all it is a photo contest. That's not a campaign. You might have contests inside of a campaign, but you need to kind of know the difference between the two. One good way that you could think about this when developing a campaign, not just a digital campaign, any campaign, is let's start with the conversion and work backwards. So let's start at the end goal. What would make this campaign successful? Well, we're trying to increase sales by X number of dollars, trying to increase the number of e-news signups we have, trying to increase communications and stories around the brand on social media. So if we've got those conversions in place, it's easier to start building a campaign going backwards instead of coming up with a really cool idea, building out the campaign, and then the last part of the meeting is, okay, so what are we trying to measure here? It's like, that's the wrong way to do it. Figure out what you're trying to measure here and then work backwards. I think you're going to be a little bit more successful. And I list some of the conversions at the bottom. It doesn't necessarily need to be sales, e-news signups, brand conversions or conversations, consumer data, for example. Maybe you run something and all we're looking to do is increase the number of reviews. That might be something to consider. Who is your audience? I touched on this in the last presentation, but I did want to talk about it a little bit more because it's really, really, really important. Go ahead and create audience profiles, even if it's just in your head. And I'm going to give you an example of some that aren't just in somebody's head. They built them all out in just a second. But if you can develop those people profiles inside your head, it's like person number one, they're between 25, 45, female, they've got kids. Person number two over here, person number three over here. Developing those audience profiles make it way easier to match campaigns to your audience instead of simply running like a blanket campaign and just hope things happen in the end. What do the members look like? How do they consume content? Do they, they use their mobile devices far more than they use a computer or vice versa? That's all going to have an impact on the campaign, because if we decide we want to run a really cool video campaign or videos inside a campaign, but majority of our audience use mobile devices, that might change the uptake on videos because they're using mobile and perhaps they don't have good connection. restrictions, whatever the case may be. They don't want to blow up their bandwidth, or whatever the case may be. They decide that they don't want to watch your video, and that's like an integral part of the campaign. That's really going to hurt you. Where do they get their information from? Do they go to social media for information? Do they go on the various news websites? Should we be putting ads on weather.com or some of the news websites, both nationally or local, whatever the case may be? We got to figure out where people get their information from and get our information in front of them that way. Why do they care about me? There's a really good chance the bulk of the people you're targeting in a campaign do not care about you. We have to convince them that it's really important to care about us. So if you go in making assumptions about your audience, like, oh, they probably already know that, we don't need to talk about that. They don't. I guarantee you they don't know about it. I don't find too many people that I come across that wake up in the morning and go, you know what, I hope I can talk to a brand on social media today. That would be an awesome day, and that's my goal. No one does that. I don't do that. I don't wake up like, I cannot wait to have a conversation with a car rental company on Twitter today. It's going to be so exciting. No one thinks about that because you don't care until it's last minute, or all of a sudden you're presented with an opportunity where it's like, now I care and now I want to talk to a brand on Twitter. So don't just make assumptions that your audience cares about you, that they know a whole lot about you. They're probably really, really busy. What problem can I solve for them? Well, maybe I'm a source of entertainment for them, a way to get the kids out of the house on a Sunday afternoon. I'm solving a problem for them. And go beyond the basics when creating these profiles. The example I'm going to show you might be hard to read because I'm horrible at screenshots. I come from Canada. We work with the CTC, the Canadian Tourism Commission. The CTC did a really, really nice job of creating these EQ profiles, Explorer Quotient profiles, where they basically group people, different types of visitors that come to Canada, into a whole bunch of different groups. I'm sure Brand USA has something like this. I'm sure your local marketing body has something like this. But I encourage you to go and find these because it'll give you all sorts of amazing insights into your audience. So for example, the one up here right now are cultural explorers. So I put the, oh, you know what, it cut off at the bottom. Destination Canada, if you just search Destination Canada and EQ profiles, you'll see them come up. But they basically go way into it. How old this group is. Are they mostly male or female? Do they have kids? What do they like? What don't they like? You know, for example, with cultural explorers, these are the kind of people that want to go on a vacation but don't want everything done for them. They're the kind of people that, you know, maybe they wouldn't go on an all-inclusive vacation because they want to land at the airport and then go and see the culture for themselves. I'm not really this person. I'm more like, I'll go to the airport, I'll get on a tour bus, you'll take me to the hotel where I can just eat whatever I want and sit around, and then you'll take me on a tour where I feel 100% safe, and you'll take me to the good places to get pictures, and then I can put them on Facebook and look like I had an amazing time on vacation. That's more my style, not really cultural explorer style. So even within these different groups, you think, oh, our target is 25 to 45 females with families. There's all sorts of different little things inside of that too. Not everybody is the same. So I encourage you to look at profiles like these, or profiles created by marketing organizations, destination marketing organizations that you work with. They probably have a better handle on these profiles, and I encourage you to use them because they cost a whole lot of money to make. So based on these profiles, if we were marketing that group that I just showed you up there, the cultural explorers, create content that appeals to their needs. So if I know that they don't really like prepackaged things, I'm going to create experiences for them where they can go and kind of experience things on their own. I'm going to source frequently asked questions and use them to my advantage. What are people asking on places like, there's a site called Yahoo Answers that no one goes on anymore, but people ask questions there all the time. There's a comment about Reddit earlier. Reddit is a fabulous place to go and source what people are saying, questions that get asked all the time, using those questions as the foundation of your campaign. I want to answer these questions with my campaign. You're probably not your audience. A big mistake a lot of our clients make is they make the assumption that they're marketing to themselves. There's a really, really good chance you're not in that target demographic that you're trying to market to. So when you go to create marketing materials, or in this case, social media posts, don't create posts that you think are interesting because you're not marketing to yourself. Hopefully you already have a really good understanding of the business and you don't need to market to yourself to learn more. Maybe you don't. I'm not here to judge. But so let's make sure that we're actually talking to the people we want to talk to. You're not just filling your needs of, oh, this is a great post. People are going to love this post. I'm going to post it right now. Your target audience probably doesn't care at all. What? What are we trying to say? What's the point of this campaign in terms of what we're trying to say and the messaging behind it? Every campaign needs a content plan, and I'll recite that again. Every campaign needs a content plan. Content makes this whole thing run. Without content, it's really hard to create ads, to manage social media profiles, to build landing pages, whatever the case may be, the different components that you need for your campaign. If you don't have content, whether it be written, images, video, etc., you're behind the 8 ball already. Match your messages to your goals and your audience and your channels. We'll touch on channels in just a second, but if we already have an understanding of what our goals are for the campaign and we know the different audience profiles we're trying to talk to, let's create content in line with those goals and the audiences, and everything starts to kind of match up and everything starts to make a little bit more sense when we're building the overall campaign. Keep your message bite-sized. This is a presentation that I've done a number of times this year. We call it bite-sized content. Micro content would be something that I'm sure you've heard lots of people talk about. But the idea of building content for social media, think of yourself as a social media user. You have you'll give a brand 1 millisecond on your Facebook feed before you blow by them and say, I don't care. Unless it's one of those videos, the overhead videos of somebody cooking, then you watch it for 30 seconds and you're like, this is so easy, I can make this when I get home. And you can't, because it's actually really, really difficult. And somebody isn't laying out the ingredients in bowls for you either, or you just dump them in. So think about that for a second and think about the amount of time you have in front of your audience. You need to create content that matches that. So the idea of micro content is creating those bite-sized pieces of content that somebody can consume in 5, 10, 15 seconds, because that's all we're going to get in front of these people. An example is we did some work on a social media campaign with a client, and what they were able to do is they gave us a bunch of videos of interviews from different people talking about why they moved to this area, etc. And we said, okay, well, traditional would be, let's clean these videos up, throw them on YouTube, and we've got ourselves a YouTube campaign where people can watch 20-minute videos about people talking about why they moved here. Well, I don't know how many people are going to watch those videos, probably not very many. We got to change this up a little bit. So what we did is we took all those videos and we chopped them and chopped them and chopped them and chopped them, and we came up with these bite-sized 10 to 15 chunks. Here's the question, here was their answer. Now all of a sudden, instead of having 6 or 7 videos, I've got 60 pieces of micro content, these quick little videos. I can go spread those all over the place. I can take stills out of my video and all of a sudden I've got photos. I can listen to what people are saying on those videos and create quotes. I can do so much stuff with that if I think from a micro content perspective and create all these manageable bite-sized pieces of content that I can share anywhere during a campaign. It's going to be far better off than simply rolling out the behemoth 20-minute video and say, check this video out, you're going to love it. 20 minutes of your time, 100% worth it. People don't do that anymore. They don't want to watch your video for 20 minutes about somebody talking. Give them little bite size. It's going to go a lot further. Be mindful of how people will be consuming your messaging through the mobile phone and smartphones or through computers. Let's make sure whatever we're doing matches up to that. There's a really good chance that people that are coming to your venue are probably looking at things on a mobile device. Either they're planning ahead of time or they're actually on their way there. Do your campaign landing pages work well on a mobile device? Do they have to do the pinch, pinch, drag, 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 hit the button for a map? You don't want that. You want it very simple. We've even done some testing where we'll create different ad campaigns for social media, and we'll put in certain words which show that there's some sort of intent for somebody to be buying today or visiting today. When they start doing like museum hours or theater showtimes, they're a long ways down that funnel. They're getting really close to making a decision, so we can run ads saying, show start at 2, buy tickets here. Those people, that's what they're after, because they've gone and figured out what show they want to see. Now they're looking for individual show times. They're way down that path to purchase already. Let's get in front of them with opportunities to buy then. So let's say our campaign was focused on talking to young professionals with no kids. First of all, I envy those people some days. It's like you can just go wherever you want, like eat dinner at 8 o'clock at night. That's nuts. It's like when I come here to speak and I talked to my wife last night and I said, I had dinner at 3:30 today. Guess what? I can. And she's like, oh, I wish I could do that. But nah, you can't. Sorry. So young professionals with no kids, what kind of things are they looking for? What kind of messaging would really kind of perk up their interest? Well, let's focus some sort of product or service around weekends and weeknights, like evenings. They can go out and do that stuff. For mom and dad with 3 kids, I can't go to a film at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday. It is not happening ever. There'll be kids screaming, Daddy, don't go, stay here. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going. Young professionals, that's their thing. All of a sudden, hey, I can go somewhere at 7 p.m., make a date night out of it, whatever the case may be. Position it as a bit of an exclusive opportunity. One thing that we found over time is there's certain groups like these young professionals that want to do cool, different things that they can tell their friends about. And the way they tell their friends in general is through social media. So imagine if we could create a really cool, exclusive opportunity for somebody on a Wednesday night and let those people tell the story through social media. Our job is done for the day. Those people will take care of that. So I talk about here the idea of a brag-worthy experience. They're not too concerned about budget for the most part. If the tickets are a little bit more expensive, but they're doing something so cool that they can tell their friends about, they're okay with that. If your target market was families, maybe budget might come into play and we've got to build different packages or promotions that are somewhat budget conscious. This group, not so much. They're willing to kind of exchange a little bit more money for the idea of being able to tell their friends at work and on social that they did something really, really cool last night. Where are we posting? This is something that I get asked all the time. They're like, oh, we want to talk to families, so we're going to be on Facebook. And it's like, okay, but how much research have you done into that? Did you just like look at something one day and there's an article that said, hey, if you want to reach out and talk to families, you should be on Facebook, and you just kind of rolled with that? It was like, yeah, that's good enough for me. All the research is done. Don't make assumptions with channels and audiences, and I'm going to show you an example in just a second. Does Snapchat only get used by people between 16 and 22? Not necessarily. I'm 39. I've used Snapchat before. Do people between 20 and 30 totally ignore a newspaper and will only read things on their phone? Yes and no. You know, there are people that actually like read things still. People still watch TV. I know, crazy this, I know people in their 30s that listen to the radio even. I know apparently it's dead, but I do. So we can't make assumptions that this person falls in this group and this is all they do and they're always on Twitter or they're always on Snapchat or they're always on Instagram. That's not the case when it comes to social media. Nor should it be the case, because there's so much data out there. If you spend a little bit of time, you'll start to identify where people actually hang out. I'll show you an example. So let's combine industry data with some of your own research to figure out where you need to be. One great way of doing this is when people come to your location and your staff asks them, where did you hear about us? Jot down Twitter, jot down Facebook, website. Oh, I saw your ad in the newspaper. Starting to identify, how did people find you? Why are they here? Then we can use that data as part of our conversation. Don't spread yourselves too thin when it comes to social media, and this is like rule number 1 on social media. Do the posting math. Let's say somebody told you that you needed to post 3 times a week on social media to be effective. I don't know if that's the right number. I have no idea who your audience is. I don't know if it should be every day. I don't know if it should be 2 times a week. Only you can decide that. Let's just say 3. So let's say we're running with Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and there's 365 days in the year, 52 weeks a year. Let's say 3 times a week times 52 is 150 and change, because I'm not good with math. So there's one profile, but we have 3 profiles. So now go 150 times 3. That's a lot of content. I don't know how big your content team is, but I envy you if you can create that much content. And it doesn't simply mean, hey, here's a post here, and we'll just go to here, and we'll put it up here at the same time. Don't be robotic. Every profile is different with a different audience. I would way rather you pare it down to 1 profile and do 1 thing extremely well, instead of doing 3 things not so well. And the argument will be, but we want to spread our message out. We want to make sure more people hear about us. all you're doing by putting out more profiles, setting up more profiles and putting out bad content not very frequently is you're just getting in front of people with bad content, and they're going to be like, I don't know if I really want to go to this place. They have a crappy Instagram, or they don't do well on Twitter. Cut your losses. Do one thing extremely well. I don't know if there's too many people in this room that would disagree if I said, wouldn't it be really cool if you could be the best museum or theater on Facebook for your entire area? I think most people would take that. They'd be like, heck yeah, I'll take that. Well, in order to achieve that, either up your content budget dramatically or cut out the things that aren't working and focus all your attention on one single platform instead. You're going to be far, far better off. And look beyond the big ones. Ideas of forums, those are like bulletin boards. I know they're crazy, they still exist, and there's really, really passionate people that go on these forums. There's extremely passionate people inside of subreddits. It doesn't have to be Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Pinterest. Go find where your audience actually is and talk to them that way. You know, hypothetical, if you had a film coming out and it was all about the jungle, let's say. Well, we could go and we could set up a Facebook page and we could say, this is going to be all about the jungle film coming out. But what if we discovered through our different research that there was a really good subreddit talking about nature films? So everybody that's in that subreddit and communicates in that subreddit loves nature films. I'd say that's pretty close to your audience, and maybe that's something we might want to investigate as opposed to just blanketing everything through a Facebook page if our audience doesn't care about it whatsoever. Another one that I often tell people, I touched on reviews in the last presentation, is what if your social media strategy or your social media campaign just focused around reviews, and all you didn't have a Twitter account or a Pinterest account. You just made sure anytime somebody reviewed you, you were there to leave a nice comment below. You were there to say, I appreciate the feedback. We're going to do something about that. And after you do something about it, you go post on your website, so-and-so said on Yelp that they didn't really appreciate what we did in this regard. They didn't like the service they got at this movie. Here's what we did about it. And we actually have a video or a blog post showing we heard you, we listened, and we did something. That's an awesome social media strategy that has nothing to do with the big social media channels. So lots of different ways you can go around this idea of a social media channel. So we use a tool, it's called SocialRank, socialrank.com, and what socialrank.com is we can plug in any Instagram account or Twitter account, whether we're an admin or not, we can plug it in, and it breaks down the followers in all sorts of different ways, and you can filter them every which way and do all sorts of crazy things. So I've got two here. I went and randomly pulled two organizations that came to the conference this week, and I took their Twitter accounts and I ran them through SocialRank. What I wanted to kind of demonstrate was, although both those accounts on Twitter are kind of targeting the same types of people, there's all sorts of differences in those audiences, even though they're on the same channel being Twitter, and they're talking about the same kind of things. So the first account here, 37,000 followers, 66% of them are from within their state. So 66% of them are somewhat local, and those are people putting in their location inside Twitter. 66 is not uncommon. I've seen up to 75. The majority of people following on social are going to be from quite close to you. So don't think you need to have some sort of long-haul strategy, because it's probably not going to pay off in the end. 48% of them have tweeted in the last 30 days. So about half of them are somewhat active on Twitter. The other half are like zombies, or they don't post very often, or they only have Twitter to follow a couple of accounts. So about half of them. 54% of them identify themselves as females. Now I know on Twitter you don't have to put male or female, but in this case 54% of them, so about half of the 37,000 are female. Okay, that makes some sense. It's kind of low for a museum, in my opinion, from what I've seen, but okay, 54 is cool. The popular bio words, meaning the words inside the bios of the people that follow you. Not including location ones, because there's always like bios about the sports teams they follow and all sorts of those other things. Art, love, music. Artist, lover, mom. Okay, so that's given us a bit of an indication of what this audience might actually look like. Those are some really good hints as to who these people are. And then the best time to post. When are these people that follow this account most active on Twitter? Thursday at 10 a.m., Friday at 10 a.m., and Wednesday at 11 a.m. Also good information to know if Twitter is part of our campaign and the question of when should we post comes up. There's some pretty good data right there. Okay, let's flip to another account. I'll tell you, this account that I did this one with is not within like 3 states of this other one. I kind of kept them somewhat apart. So in this case, 60% are from within the state. Again, staying around that 60%, that's about right on average for a museum. 59% of the followers have tweeted in the last 30 days. You notice this account's only 20,000, so it's smaller than the 37,000 on the last slide, but over half of those 20,000 have tweeted in the last 30 days. That's a pretty good chunk of people that are actually active on Twitter, so perhaps if part of our campaign is like, where should we be? Well, we have a pretty active Twitter following. That might be something we want to take into account. 67% of these individuals are female. That's a big jump from 54. The popular bio words here: lover, love, science, community, family, music, and mom. Okay, so a little bit different there. And then the best time to post, completely different than the other account. Wednesday at 2, Friday at 2, Thursday at noon. I could run this with all sorts of different venues, and every single time it would be a little bit different. We've done similar things like this on Facebook with some of our clients. I've got Facebook audiences where the majority of people that engage with the museum content are male. I have complete other ones over here where the majority of people that engage with content are female. The ages change, what those people are into change. So the idea here being that one profile or one channel fits all, it doesn't work whatsoever. I can't tell you what channels you need to be on for your social media campaign because I don't know who you're talking to. I have no idea what your audience is like, so I can't sit here and say you should all be on Facebook because it's 100% the best place to be. No clue. No clue whatsoever. The idea of when should we post? Well, we kind of looked a little bit on that on the last slide. When are we posting? That's driven by data. Let's experiment with different types of posts, different days, etc. Let's try posting right now at 10 a.m. Let's see what kind of engagement we get. Let's take a similar post and put it at 10 p.m. and see what kind of engagement we get. I can tell you from working with museums especially, evenings is an A-OK time to be posting. And I'm not talking like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. I'm talking like 10:30 at night p.m. Let's post there. You'd be surprised in our case at the amount of engagement we were able to get. It's kind of like the kids have gone down to bed, mom and dad are hanging on their phones or on their computers, whatever the case may be. Lots of engagement happening in that 9 to 11 o'clock window, something that maybe you don't even consider. Post key messages often or supplement with page. So if you get frequently asked questions, post the answers to those questions at various times. Don't post it once and assume the entire world heard it. You might have to do it a few times. Couple last thoughts before we leave you today. Some of the other things to consider. Organic versus paid. People ask, is social media a paid game at this point? The answer is, yeah, kind of, but kind of not. If you're mixing good quality content organically with paid over top of that, that's a good approach. Should you pay promote every single thing you do? No, because that'd be super excessive and super annoying for the consumer. Can you grow a page or a profile completely organic? You can, but you're going to have to put your money elsewhere, probably in the form of even more content. Have a post-campaign plan. We've wrapped up our campaign. We've got tons of momentum, and now it's like, okay, we now return you to your regular scheduled posting and nothing ever happened here. That's a horrible plan for a campaign. So you might have a campaign that runs until September. You need to have a plan that goes to November. All these people are paying attention to us now with questions. We don't just hit the switch and everything dies. It's almost like the post-campaign plan rolls in, and we kind of keep that momentum going. Stay flexible, create a plan that's flexible. We can change things on the go. The good thing with digital is we can do that a lot. If there's a big world event and we need to stop everything, let's stop everything. If things in the market change, we can change with it. If you go and create a campaign that doesn't have any flexibility whatsoever, you're setting yourselves up for failure. Mobile, be aware of the mobile experience and measure everything you do. Make sure there's a measurement attached to it because you need to know how well your campaign did. If they don't have a measurement, don't start your campaign, because if you don't have anything to show for it at the end, why did you do it in the first place? Final slide before I leave you. Two companies up here, Red Bull and Lego. You see Red Bull, below that is the crashed ice. If anybody's ever seen Red Bull crashed ice, it is the craziest thing in the entire world. We had it in Edmonton a couple years ago, and we have it back this year. People go down a really steep slope on skates and then do big jumps, and then they hit each other, and whoever gets to the bottom at the end without dying is the winner. So awesome time. I highly recommend you checking out if you ever have the chance. And Lego, we all know about Lego. I will leave you with this thought when it comes to social media. Think of those two companies, Red Bull and Lego. Is Red Bull an energy drink company that creates really cool content and events? Or are they actually a content and events company that, oh, by the way, we have an energy drink over here? They're leading with content and they're letting it sell for them. Same thing with Lego. Is Lego a toy company, or is Lego a company that now creates film, television, books, everything else? And oh, by the way, you should probably buy some Lego because your kids are going to haggle you now because they saw the movie. They're leading with content as well. Something to think about for your own brand. If your brand was creating amazing content and social campaigns, you're going to be far better off than simply throwing a bunch of messages in front of somebody with paid advertising. Become that local expert through content and through knowledge, and you're going to be far, far better off. With that, I leave you once again. I've left you once already. I'll leave you once again. But thank you very much for having me. I appreciate coming down to Chicago and speaking here. It's been a lot of fun. Any other questions, feel free to email me or send me a message on Twitter. My handle is up there. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to stick around afterwards because I'm one of the few people that's not leaving today. I'm leaving tomorrow. So if you have any questions later on, I'm not doing anything. So just send me an email and we can get together and I can answer all your questions. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference.